we've got STR Q&A. Super, super pumped about it. I've got 3 sick topics that actually came up this week. If you've got a specific question that you want me to answer online, drop them in the comments below. Let me make sure we got the right chat up. Drop your comments below. All right, let's get rocking and rolling. Today, man, it's been a crazy week. Hopefully everybody is doing well. I'm gonna crack a La Croix for this one. I didn't even plan it, but it matches my color back there. All right, so first question. Have this in our so actually let me do one thing before we jump in. If you are not part of the free Side Hustle host program, jump in there, scan this QR code. I can send you the link. It is there. I put together a freaking sick free mini course on anything you would ever need to know for hosting, investing in Airbnbs successfully. We've done, I don't know, at least a couple million in the past couple of years. I've put everything in there for free. Go check it out. So Q&A, I've got 3 lined up. First one is how to not land a Karen as your client. This is an interesting scenario story that we had. A student in that group actually messaged me and was like, hey, I've got a Karen as a client. What do I do? We'll kind of talk through those. Second question, chargebacks. Chargebacks happen. I've got some tips and tricks to show you on what to do to mitigate that risk. Mitigate that risk. And then 3, peak season pricing versus off-season pricing. So in Charlotte, we just got out of slow season, and then we're heading into peak season. I want to make sure you're super, super prepared and what actually to do to make sure you're priced correctly. So first one, how to not land a Karen as a client. What I mean by that is there are some super, super high maintenance clients out there, and I don't want to work with those clients. I don't want you to work with those clients. But there's some things that you can do to kind of get ahead of that. And we'll kind of go through it here. So I think the first one is setting expectations correctly. What I mean by that is like, what expectations have you set with the client, right? This starts from the first interaction that they get with you. If you don't answer for a week, they kind of expect you to not answer for a week. That's the expectation that you're setting, with or without you knowing it. So making sure you're setting expectations correctly in the front will actually help the sales process, the onboarding, all the management down the road. All this is going to get better over time with correct expectations. So one thing that we've done, which it took us way too long to figure it out, but I'm giving you this info for free, is we have a client-facing Notion article where we give a link to our clients that has all of the frequently asked questions that we get. So like one of the most popular one is like how to read the accounting statement. What are the frequently asked questions? Like what buttons to click, how to log in, how to download your report, how to get your 1099s, like all of those questions that we get very often, we've packaged it up into multiple Notion articles where when we get that question again, we just send them the link that has the answer in it. So it is super scalable for us. Does take some time up front to get it up and running. One actually we added this morning. Client was asking what's included in our onboarding and then what's not included in our onboarding. So we literally made a list of everything that was included and then also made a list of everything that wasn't included. So that way we can, next time we get that question, we can send it to the client and they have access to that 24/7, 365 at all times. So it not only helps set expectations with the client, it also helps our team focus on like guest satisfaction, getting good reviews, providing a great hospitality experience versus just answering the same basic questions from 100 different clients. So set expectations. Maybe I'll give away our Notion doc. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if that's something that would be valuable. Number 2, red flags. So if you have a Karen or whoever you want the male version to be on this is the red flags, right? You probably notice the red flags, but often overlook the red flags. What I mean by that is like whenever you've got a couple things during like the sales process, for example, we had a client that wanted to create this like super, super unique custom solution and use these like brands that we are like super organic and hard to source, and essentially creating a custom package, and he wanted us to deliver on it. Right? Sounds great, but I know at scale we're probably not going to do that very well, and that customer is going to get upset. Maybe we don't set out the organic soap in the right area, or we put this type of all natural cheese in the wrong part of the fridge. Like there's a level of complexity that is not scalable. Now, if you've got a couple of properties, yeah, make it custom, make it super, super high end, like super unique, and doing that. But for us, we're to a point where it just doesn't make sense. So that's like an easy red flag during the sales process that I got ahead of in that sales call. Now, potentially lost us a deal, but honestly, I would rather lose that deal on the front end versus 3 months down the road, them get pissed off and the expectations are out of whack. Our team's like, this client is, a nightmare. Like I can't, hold them account. Like it saves our team a ton down the road, just not ignoring the red flags. So I think step number 3 is if you've done all that and then still there is potential, like not, their expectations here and we're here, or, vice versa, let them go. Like there are plenty of clients out there. They'll find somebody else to do this for. I mean, hopefully, maybe not. But worst case scenario, just let them go. For us specifically, we usually there's a handful of clients or properties that we let go every year, kind of trimming the fat a little bit. That's not a bad thing. It's not like they're terrible people or the property is not worth it. It's just, it doesn't make sense for where we're at in business at this point. Now, typically it's clients that we've had for years in the past where, our expectations 3 years ago were completely different than they are in 2025. And then they're going to be completely different 3 years from today. So we got to make sure everybody is continual on the same page there. Megan, welcome. Thanks for joining. Healthy growth. Yes, for sure. All right. Anybody, once again, if you got questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll answer them. Second point that I had lined up actually came up this week as well, was a fellow host. We were talking about chargebacks. So if you don't know what a chargeback is, you probably will at some point. It's just a matter of time. If you haven't had a chargeback, that's great. You just haven't probably done enough volume to get that. A chargeback is essentially somebody pays with a credit card, and then on their account in their statement, like let's say Chase or Wells Fargo, they go on there and they say, hey, this is fraud. Like I don't recognize this charge in my bank account. And then they essentially kick it back to the payment processor, AKA like us in this scenario. And then you essentially have to fight the bank to get that money back. So a couple kind of housekeeping items that we use. I've got one software recommendation and then a couple things within within our payment processor Stripe that hopefully will give you guys some value here. So a couple things, making sure, so full disclosure, we've had, I don't know, maybe 4 chargebacks. We've only won like one of them. And we're super strict with collecting ID, getting rental agreement signed. Like we go above and beyond with the house rules and all this stuff to protect us and protect the owners. I think there's probably 10 more chargebacks that didn't happen that we just don't know of, that because we had these things in place, they went to somebody else and used that fraudulent credit card on another host, which sucks. So hopefully this will shield you from that. So we've probably had, I don't know, 4,000 stays, and we've only had 4 chargebacks. So it's a very, very small percentage, but a couple things to keep in mind and to lower that as much as possible. It's almost impossible to eliminate chargebacks. So the software recommendation, Charge Automation, it has like a chargeback guarantee. I don't know exactly what that means, but they essentially guarantee that you will win every chargeback. I don't know how they do it. I think it's some type of like two-factor authentication. As soon as the payment goes through, they also text the number and has to have a code to match. Like there's some software on the back end that they make that happen. So charge automation. If you can't find it, just shoot me a DM. I'll send you the link over. Stripe. So there's a couple different payment processors. Stripe being a very popular one. Elevon, I think, is another one. Lynbrook is another popular one. Whichever one you use, I know Stripe has this thing called an early fraud warning. So early fraud warning is essentially there's like 90 there. So when payments are run, they essentially look at every single payment and then they flag a couple that they're like, chances are this payment is probably going to turn into a chargeback. So what they do, Stripe specifically, they email us and text us and they just blow us up when we have an early fraud warning. And when that early fraud warning happens, it is 90% chance that early fraud warning turns into a chargeback down the road. So for us, as soon as we see an early fraud warning, we get an email, we get a text. Like we turned all of our notifications on for this. What we do in that scenario is we immediately refund that card. Like, hey, this Jane Doe, this credit card for $1,000, like we refund that card. So there is no way to charge back on a refunded payment. It doesn't happen. And then we reach out to the guest immediately after that and say, hey, Jane, we got an early fraud warning on this credit card. We need another card on file. We've already issued you a refund for this amount that you paid. We need another card on file to charge this, to charge the entirety of your stay. Now, where this gets hard is if this booking is like last minute. Let's say, it's 6 o'clock, they're checking in tomorrow. You've got a very, very tight window to get a new payment method on file, run the payment, check the ID, like send the rental contract, doing all these steps. But it will save you a ton of headache, lost revenue, pissed off clients. Like it is 1000% worth it. So check out early fraud warnings. If you're not on Stripe, if you're on one of the other ones, just Google your payment processor, early fraud warnings. Now, if you have Airbnb, they fight all the chargebacks for you. So you're nothing really to do there. Vrbo, you're typically the payment processor. I'm about to nerd out on you. If you're the merchant of record with Vrbo, AKA you have if you have management software that's API integrated. If that's too complicated, just completely ignore it. All right, so early fraud warning. We've got a question here. All right. So this is a long one. I like it. All right, Megan. I have a client that hasn't paid an invoice. Actually, this cut off a little bit because it's too big. I have a client that hasn't paid an invoice. Maybe seems to be implying they are still reconsidering services until we speak. They want specific information into the strategy I've planned without giving them too much of the plan so they can hypothetically cancel and leave with my strategy. How do you think I should proceed? It's a really good question. So I think the first thing is, do you have a signed agreement with this client? I'm assuming yes, since you've sent an invoice of some regard to them. So they haven't paid an invoice, and it seems like they're asking about what you're planning to do for the strategy for this client. Is this a revenue management client, Megan, co-host, full service? Like, what kind of agreement do you have in place with them? I think that would probably be the first question that I answer. Secondly, I'm a big fan of an onboarding charge, because this gets skin in the game for them. If it's like, if there's no onboarding fee, they could hypothetically break your agreement, depending on what your agreement says, at any point, and then you're kind of SOL. So no agreement. They paid on a certain platform, and we'll have one going forward with them, revenue management. Okay, I collect a card on file, and they are failing to do so. So if you've got a card on file, could you just charge that card on file. So you've done a lot of the right things. Collecting the card on file, that's big, especially if you're just invoicing at month end versus like collecting payment and then remitting them. I would, no agreement. That's not ideal. It's a risky spot to be in with no agreement, because the agreement protects everybody involved, right? It protects you, it protects the client, it protects the guest. It's Megan, shoot, I'll send you our revenue management agreement. We've had it, we paid a lot for it, but I'll give it to you for free for jumping on here. This next payment will collect the card on file. Oh, okay. So they probably haven't paid the initial invoice to have the card on file, it sounds like. So yeah, I would, I'd get an agreement first. That's usually the first step that we'll do. For revenue management, yeah, it's a little bit different, because you're kind of like, it's kind of like a co-hosting agreement. You're just invoicing for your services. So I would potentially think about doing like an onboarding fee. It doesn't have to be a lot, $100, $200 maybe even start at like 50. If they're serious and they won't help, should be a drop in the bucket for them. I would probably not do this strategy session until they pay, and maybe phrase it to them like that. Like, hey, once the invoice is paid, we can jump on a Zoom call to, answer any questions you might have. I will say this, what you're doing, I know you're talented. You're very good at this. Like, we've talked a lot. I will say this, and this is pretty much in business altogether, is people can, and this is why I do a lot of this free content, is you can give them the info and you can show exactly what you do, and 99.9% of people still will not do anything, or they will do it. It'll be a train wreck, and then they'll call you back and rehire you. That's when you double your charge. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, hopefully that helps. Their listings are inside my price lab, so I'm not sure what the thinking is. Ooh, okay. This is this is good, because now, I don't know if with Price Labs, is if the account is linked to Price Labs, to link it to another Price Labs account, you have to get approval from the original Price Labs linking account. They probably don't know this. I don't know if you know this, but you essentially have to submit a support ticket saying, hey, I linked it to this account. I want to move it to this account. And what they'll do is they'll say, okay, we need approval from the first client's account that it was linked to, which AKA you in this situation. So if you don't say, yes, this is approved, you're still you're in the driver's seat still. You can still say, okay, great, pay me this invoice. We'll get everything rocking and rolling. I think that's a really smart move, putting it under your Price Labs account versus theirs, because essentially once it's under your account, like, everything is within your kind of ecosystem, versus you put it on theirs. Hypothetically, they could take it and run with it. One thing that I have learned, especially with revenue management, is, man, it doesn't matter what kind of setup you have to make adjustments. Like, the point number 3 that I'm about to talk about is peak season versus off-season pricing. There is so many adjustments that you need to make that most people just aren't aware of, or they don't do. Like, for example, we it was probably 2 weeks ago now, we were starting looking at summer peak season pricing in February. We were 3 months ahead of time, but that's what you have to do. And it's not a set it and forget it. Megan, I know you know this. It's not a set it and forget it where you just set it up and you never touch it again. There's constantly things that you're updating. Like, if a new event happens, you got to go and, add a premium to those nights. Or if, like, you have a last minute weekend opening, like, let's say you have a last minute cancellation and it was priced at $300 a night. Now everybody is booked at $300. And if you want to get that last minute booking, maybe you offer it for $225 to be super competitive for last minute. So those are the things that are this person sounds like they're not going to be able to do. They probably don't even understand that it's not a set it and forget it. So to kind of recap, grab the agreement. I'll shoot me a message after this. I'll send you a PDF of ours. To potentially think about charging an onboarding fee, just kind of gets them a little skin in the game, so they can't like leave with all your IP. And then I think what you did really, really well is putting the listing inside your account. I think that's really, really smart. So Megan, thank you for your question. If there's any follow-ups there, more than happy to answer those. All right. So the third one that I had lined up was peak season pricing versus off-season pricing. Peak season, most markets, it's like summertime, June, July, August, September. And then most markets are usually slow season, January, February, some of December. Just depends on where you're at. But I've got actually two markets that I'm going to kind of show you guys what this looks like. And I think transitioning from like slow season to peak season is very, very important. And then I think the more important part is transitioning from peak season back to slow season. So easy way to, well, I think it's easy. Easy way to do this. And let me share my screen real quick. I'll kind of show you one of the most important metrics. Hopefully this came through. So I've got two market dashboards, which market dashboard is a upgraded Price Labs feature where you unlock a lot of this like month by month data, so you can make better decisions. So I've got a property in Hilton Head, which is a beach market in South Carolina, I don't even know where it's at. It's on one of the Carolina coast. And then this property is, I can't remember if this one's in Charlotte or Belmont or what. But I think the two biggest things is understanding what graphs to look at and what changes to make. So I think a super simple one is, once you've got this set up, using this just like average estimated revenue. And this isn't the whole market. This is like your specific comp set, your like closest 15 to 20 properties, making sure you're lined up with those. So I'm actually, I don't know how to zoom in here, but this top left graph right here, estimated revenue. So as you can see, this market, it's not too seasonal. This is an urban market. This is where majority of our properties are, but like kind of, if you consolidate the graph, most of them are around this like $4,000 to $6,000. Like, I mean, most. You got December, July's a little outlier up here, and then October, that was the hurricane. So Octobers are normally not that good, but April is, on that bottom end. March is a little bit higher. And then you got two kind of outliers here, January and February. So when you set up Price Labs does a lot of this work for you, but I still think you need to correct these items. So what I've done, kind of a general rule of thumb, is like, I'll typically add 10 to 15% during peak season, and then I will decrease 10 to 15% during slow season. So let's say like our middle line here is about $5,000, right? Obviously each month is going to go up and down depending on supply and demand and all that. But for a simplistic reason, this May, June, and July, August, and then October, like those are the months that I would add like, 10 to 15% on top of that. So you're priced at the higher end of peak season, so you're not leaving money on the table. And then here specifically, you can actually see it here as well. So this is 2024, January and February. I would 100% drop. I would add an additional discount during slow season to make sure you're competitive and make sure you're not just sitting there vacant, losing money. So 10 to 15% honestly might not be enough during this slow season. This slow season was a lot better. So January last year was about $2,000. This one was about $2,600. So up a substantial amount for this comp set. February was 2,500, and then up to 3,100 this year. And then we're 5 days into March. So we've got definitely some runway here for March to kind of get up to that like middle $5,000 kind of band, if that makes sense. So how we do that price labs is the custom seasonal profile. Sure, Wheelhouse and some of these other ones, you can just add a premium depending on month, depending on day. Like you can get wild and crazy with it. But I think the 10 to 15% during peak season, and then 10 to 15%, maybe more during slow season. Just making sure you're done well there. I think one thing to mention here is you always want to, a very smart man told me this, it is be the last person to get booked during peak season and then be the first person to get booked during slow season. I'll say that again. Hopefully I said it right. Be the last person to get booked during peak season. Be the first person to get booked during slow season. So that tells me be super aggressive during slow season, and then be pretty aggressive during peak season as well, and making sure you're not leaving money on the table. All right. So let me actually, there's one more market dashboard that I wanted to show you guys. So this was the one that we were just looking at. So urban market, not much seasonality outside of like January, February, and then July is really high. This one, more seasonal market, where you've got, this is a traditional like vacation rental market. You've got, huge kind of troughs and valleys. Hopefully troughs and valleys, I don't know if that's the right word, but like peaks and valleys. Here you've got a huge spike, June, July, and then August is as well. You've got kind of middle of the road here, March, April, May, a little decrease under kind of the median for September, October, and then it just falls off a freaking cliff, November, December, January, and then February is pretty bad too as well. So we're comparing, year over year. That just freaking whew. So this one, I would be a little more aggressive on both sides. I would probably during peak season, June, July, I might add 20%, maybe 25% on these premiums. And November, December, January, and then maybe February, I would, same thing. Probably 20, 25% decrease during those months. Now, keep in mind, like December, you're probably not given a 25% discount for Christmas, New Year's type deal. But like the rest of the month, everybody's they're not traveling during the first 3 weeks. They're waiting until Christmas, New Year's. Same thing with Thanksgiving here. I wish I could break this down. I bet a lot of this $1,100 was done in that 1 week. So this is a little bit more of the ups and downs here, but you only can unlock this with the market dashboard. So hopefully that helps kind of give you some general rule of thumb for those. Megan, you got one more question. Let's see. I run into big issues with comp creation. Price Labs doesn't pick up waterfront or pool amenities. I filtered those out yesterday and it still remained in the comps I created. So didn't pick up waterfront or pool amenities. So in the, you can, so I don't know if you're saying Price Labs didn't pick it up or what, but you can go on the fly here a little bit. In the, where is it? Comp set here, you can add beachfront, lakefront here, hot tub, pool. You can add that here to show it. And then you'll have to scroll all the way to the right. Hopefully this loads. And then it'll be like a 0, 1. 0 is no, 1 is yes. So you can see that here in the comps. So are you saying that Price Labs didn't update that or something else? Let me go back to the question real quick. Random biggest price levels didn't pick it up on waterfront or pool amenities, filtered out those yesterday and it's still so maybe there's a delay. I've seen Price Labs, the comp set, where it takes like 12 to 24 hours until something is updated. Actually, I was talking to the co-founder a couple weeks ago. He said they were working on updating that quicker. So maybe that's it. Let's see. We got to follow up. The listing has no pool or waterfront. I deselected it and it's still included in my comps generated. The listing has no pool or waterfront. So you took it off the comp set and it's still included. Yeah, it's probably a delay thing. I would maybe wait 12 more hours. And if it's not, then put a support ticket in. Price Lab support is freaking rock stars. They're the best in the biz at support. Everyone that I've talked to over there is very smart. So hopefully that is just kind of a delay thing, Megan. But yeah, so we've got, I don't know, maybe 6-7 people on. If you have any questions, drop them below. I will answer them in the next 60 seconds. If not, we will we'll jump off. Let me just make sure I didn't have anything else on the peak season verse. Yeah, Hilton Head, bigger swings. Yeah, okay. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful, Megan. I know you got a lot of questions answered. Hopefully that was super helpful. But yeah, one last little fell swoop, and we'll jump off. Any questions? We're just right at a little over 30 minutes. Appreciate everybody for jumping on. 5 more seconds. You got 5 seconds. All right. Thank you for watching. I will see you next week.